Okay.
David, hey, congratulations for your documentary, Your Friend Memphis.
Thank you so much.
More of a congratulations being showcased at South by Southwest. That must be certainly exciting for you.
Yeah, it's huge news that I was really thrilled to receive. And so, yeah, it's a big moment.
That is great to hear. So tell us what sparked you to do this documentary, Your Friend Memphis.
Great question. So I met Memphis when he and I were both hired onto the set of a kind of under budgeted Christmas film shooting outside Austin quite a few years ago. And we were shooting overnights in this dog park and everyone was kind of tired and miserable. But Memphis had this like amazingly positive energy. He was going around, talking people up, telling them about his goals in filmmaking and everything. And so he just had this real presence. And I got to know him a little bit on set. And then a few days into this month-long shoot, he was fired essentially in front of everyone. Really awkward circumstances that I did not understand and was kind of troubled by. And so I ended up reaching out to him shortly thereafter. And I learned that he had been vlogging about his experiences, his just life experiences for nearly a decade at that point. And he had this desire to share his story. And so we decided to embark on this journey together.
So there wasn't really much convincing because he was pretty much open to anything and everything.
Yeah, I mean, in the film, he says, you can't have story without conflict. Story is conflict, and that really is like it's something he lives by to the end. He's just very, very outgoing and open to new experiences, and almost to a fault. Like he'll dive headfirst into all kinds of things, and that's what makes him a very special person and a pretty exciting character on screen.
or to some people, he's a very stubborn person, but he's very goal oriented. I mean, I do have to admit.
Absolutely.
So how did you convince his parents and his best friend Seneca to participate in this project then?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning for them and also for me, I don't know that anyone realized how much this process was going to tumble and gain steam and just grow into something much larger over the course of years. At the very beginning, the plan was to just make a short film. And so I interviewed his dad once and same with his mom. I mean, it began pretty small. And I think they were probably a little suspicious, as any parents would be when someone, wants to come film. But they were excited that Memphis would have, an outlet to be able to share his experiences further. And then as the process went along, I think they really saw that my team and I were sticking around and were very sort of engaged, not in changing circumstances, but in like truly being present for wherever this thing took Memphis. And so, yeah, they've been remarkably on board, and I, they have my unending gratitude.
So how hard was it for you to stick to that idea of being a fly on the wall?
Well, I won't say that we were a fly on the wall, because I'm not sure that is ever possible. But that was really the grounding principle of our entire process. It was pretty clear from the beginning that Memphis cannot be tamed per se. He's always going to go out and do exactly what he wants to. And so we also realized that made the story more interesting and more exciting than anything that we could have prescribed for him. And so it became pretty clear early on that we were just going to show up. with a camera, and whatever he would let us film about his daily life, we would. And there were moments early on where it might seem like nothing's really happening, and yet you're back the next year and you discover that something that you had kind of thought maybe isn't so significant actually becomes like a really critical step in the evolution of this like longer story.
I mean, you followed him for 5 years, obviously not continuously. So how did you manage this calendar process of like when to revisit him?
Well, what it became was that we returned approximately 1 to 2 weeks every year, in the kind of late spring, early summer. That just became a pattern. I don't know that there was so much logic behind it early on, but then it became a tradition that we really held on to, and I think became something that the characters in the film knew, we're coming back this time next year. And it created problems in the edit, of course, because there's so much that we're not there for. But we became more accustomed to, how to address that and how to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, that is quite a long time, and I'm sure you got a lot of footage out of this.
Yeah, yeah, a lot.
So when he actually decided to go into his Wanderlust phase, was that a challenge for you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, I think in all documentary filmmaking, and probably especially in this one, there were some certainly real ethical questions, questions about consent and what, Memphis was okay with us being there for, how we could, just sort of ensure that our position within the situation was safe and respectful, and allowed him to kind of continue living out his own path and everything. But yeah.
So at which point you knew, there was an ending to this? I mean, you could have still continuously followed this guy.
Yeah, you certainly could. I think as the storyline with Seneca evolved, and then closed, it became sort of, we knew that was going to be a really meaningful part of the story. And so that gave it a little bit more of a traditional arc. We could see that relationship evolve from the beginning and then kind of descend towards the end. And the way I think about it is like, yeah, I mean, Memphis lives a very rich and full life. And these days he's on to totally new things compared to sort of what he was particularly involved in the film. But one chapter closes and the next opens. There's no way to capture his entire life in a film. We didn't even capture, anywhere near everything that happened in those 5 years. We were able to focus on what we were present for and what he would share with us. So yeah, I wouldn't say that this film is anything more than it is. It's what was in front of the camera while I was filming it. But the relationship with Seneca sort of came to an end. Memphis has now moved from Texas to Denver, and so he's on to new things, and that's how we made the decision.
Most excellent. And since you brought up Seneca, because it wasn't really addressed, she's a major part of the film, but it wasn't really addressed what happens to her afterwards. It's basically implied through her journey. So where is she now?
Yeah, she's still living in Odessa. She's teaching dance classes. She's happily in a relationship. She's doing really well. She's going to be at South by. Yeah.
Wow, that is most excellent news to hear. So what drew you into documentary filmmaking yourself? Why do you love this?
Yeah, I think one thing that I find really exciting about it is that I had worked in scripted filmmaking a bit before getting into doc, and in scripted, you're recreating a world at every turn. You're like figuring out the costumes and the production design and so on, and you get kind of unlimited takes to a certain degree. And I found that really stressful, really expensive, and it required all these people. And I don't consider myself a writer. Like, I don't want to design a world from the beginning. I want to enter into a world where everything is perfect exactly as it is in front of the camera, because that's what's taking place. And so, yeah, and that's very much at the foundation of how we made Your Friend Memphis. We sort of showed up, and whatever was happening was the story we were telling. And then in terms of documentary editing, it's a lot less about choosing, the best performance in the take, and it's more about how can you take all of these things that don't fit neatly together, but that are true and took place, and form them into a story that's accessible for an audience.
Wow. And so with this under wraps, are you planning to jump into another documentary soon?
I am, yeah. I'm in development on a new feature. It's early enough in development that I won't spoil it. But yeah, I'm interested in these really sort of long form films that can take 5 to 7 years or whatever. So you just got to get started.
You certainly have the patience for this. I don't know if I have a patience for a 5-year project, but that is your strength. So as audiences get to check out your film at South by Southwest, and hopefully more in the future, what is the one most important takeaway that you hope that they would walk away with after viewing your film?
Yeah. There really is not one takeaway. We tried to not make the film super interview heavy, super kind of explainer heavy, because it's meant to be engaged with by different people in different ways, and to allow people to bring their own conclusions and experience it differently. So I wouldn't say there's one takeaway. I mean, some people see it as a more personal story, just about this person pursuing love and independence. Others kind of see a more political bent to it in relation to Texas and the way it treats people with disabilities. I hope that it's just an opportunity for people to meet Memphis, to get to know this person who, under different circumstances, maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity to.
That is terrific, and I'm certainly know that you are very excited to meet up with Memphis once again, and he's probably really going to be excited, since being an actor, he gets to probably see himself on the big screen, or maybe a carpet or whatever, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll find it like a very exciting and fulfilling experience.
That is great. Well, David, hey, thank you very much for speaking to us about Your Friend Memphis. And once again, congratulations for the film at South by Southwest.
Thank you so much, Gig.
Hey, thank you. Hopefully we get to do this again.
Awesome. Take care.